Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast Beating the Press. Is this the first time you're listening to us and football's your thing? You like listening to people talking about football? Well, us too, especially specifically. Give us a like, subscribe, hit that super magic button at the bottom. Today we are going to talk about the biggest final in our lifetimes. Biggest final, I'd imagine, for your lifetimes or for those listeners and viewers. England against Italy on Sunday. We can. I don't think we need to big it up any more than the media, than you guys yourselves, than the whole country have built it up. And I think we all realise how big it is. This is going to be a slightly different podcast and a slightly different preview to other previews you're probably going to be listening to. This isn't completely England. This will be split. So we've got an English view and we've got an Italian view as well. And I would like to think they're both balanced as well. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Kristian. My name's Ty. This is the first time you're listening to us. So that's the quick, brief introduction. And I'll pass over to my English supporting co-host.
It's coming home. Come on. It's not even going to be remotely unbiased. It's going to be totally biased. No, of course it's not. For those of you that tune in for the first time, obviously you won't be aware that Ty is a massive Italy fan, has been since he was a kid, and obviously I am an English fan. We actually went to Wembley. Ty managed to get tickets to see the Spain and Italy game, and I must admit when we went there, I was hoping, like, I'd normally spot Spain, I'd say, after England. And so as I was going there, I was thinking, I wouldn't mind Spain victory, but Ty put an Italian top on me, and we, along the way, you met all the Italian fans, so passionate. You see the blue everywhere. Obviously, there was a lot of Spanish fans, but it seemed like the Italians outnumbered them quite a bit. And just over the space of 90 minutes, I felt like I'd been converted from my second team of Spain to Italy. It was absolutely amazing. The crack was brilliant, but we'll obviously talk about that in a little bit more detail. But all allegiances, all temporary allegiances go to the side for Italy for this game, because like you just said there, we don't even need to build this up. This is absolutely monumental. We've been talking about the team of '66, Jeff Hurst. You've got Bobby Charlton, Gordon Banks. It's time to actually rewrite our history. Like, we constantly look for heroes. Euro '96, we see that as some kind of a success, getting to a semi. This is history being made right now, and I just can't wait. What about yourself?
You're absolutely spot on. I mean, let's just put it. I've got a huge soft spot for England. So, I'm obviously a huge Italy fan. If it wasn't Italy, I'm massively support England as well. It's a one final I probably didn't want, because it's obviously, the thing with Italy is just, it's a historical, I've got an emotional connection with them, which I have with England, but not as strong. And it's a complicated relationship, is probably the best way I could put it. Just going back to the Italy-Spain game that we were lucky enough to get tickets to, it's up there with one of the best days of my life. Just the whole event, the emotion. How excited I was when I got the tickets Sunday. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow. I booked everything, and I was like, yeah, you're coming with me. Managed to get everything sorted, booked holidays off work, and we actually said, even if we get sacked, there's more chance of me getting another job than there is of me getting tickets for Italy playing in a major championship semi-final knockout game. So that was just like brilliant. And then when we got there, the whole atmosphere was just brilliant. And when we sat down as well, we said it felt like a party atmosphere. When we watched, we've been to England games before, and it feels very tribal. And there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of almost hatred, I'd say. But when the Italy game and the Spain game, it felt really, there was a party atmosphere. They obviously know it's a semi-final, there was that competitive edge, but people getting involved with the cheering, with the dancing, with the singing, do you know what I mean? And people were dancing before the game kicked off. I'd not seen that in an England game. I've been to a few England games, and I've never seen that. So the whole...
I remember you saying that. You made a good point when we were there. you could have put a Spanish fan in with us, and the atmosphere would still have been great. It doesn't have that tribal instinct that maybe like a Premier League game was. But just before you go on, speaking of singing, you've got to check out. We're going to have to put it in this podcast. Ty belting out the Italian national anthem. How was that for you? How was that moment?
Do you know that moment was a bit brilliant? Because I'm not Italian. I don't know the words to it. I don't speak Italian. I can say hi and bye, and that's about it. But I'm in love with the football team, not the country. Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. So the Italian national anthem, I was like, I'm gonna go. I've got to get involved. So I've been trying to practice to learn the national anthem. That on the 3.5-hour drive down, we were going through it.
Yeah.
And then my mate texted Dean, one of the lads we both know. He texted me the actual words to the whole national anthem, which is easy enough to get. But they said, if you don't get it, I've been told to put them on the screen anyway. So they put them on the scrone. But I kind of knew the words. And it was just unbelievable getting involved and singing it with, everyone was just proper. There was no one held back, and you could see everyone was just cheerleading on in the stands and just belting it out. It was amazing.
It's such an amazing anthem as well, isn't it? Like, it's not like a bit dour. I know, like, a lot of people are passionate about our royal family, and so they should be. But in reality, the anthem is pretty dour.
It's depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite depressing. Where the Italian one is very upbeat, and it is really good.
I thought just sort of adding on that, one of the highlights, greatest moments for me, and I remember it, and I said to you at the time when Chiesa scored that goal, it felt like almost like an out of body experience where I cheered, and it felt like the whole world was cheering with me, and it was a release, and it was just like I've watched it back when I've got home, and I felt when I was there watching, I felt like I cheered for about 5 minutes, and I was just screaming at the top of my voice. And I said to you when we got back, my stomach hurts, and it wasn't. It was just because I'd just been screaming that much it was just unbelievable. And then they've obviously, the goal when Spain have scored, and it's the last 10 minutes we had to really hang on. And then after the first 5 minutes, I thought extra time we had to hang on, but then after that, I thought we were the better side. And then the penalties, and we had unbelievable seats, and that the penalty shootout was taken literally about 40 rows in front of us, so it was a really good spot we had. And then Jorginho steps up. No, I'll go back to that. So I had my arm around you, thinking we need some luck. So you do all this kind of weird shit. Everyone knows, football fan, you'll do anything, you find it's superstitious. So I'd put my arm around you, and he missed the first one, and I was like, this ain't working, and he stopped. So it took me.
I don't think.
Yeah, I was like, nah, get your arm off me, we're not doing this. And then
it's bad luck.
And then Spanish and Danny almost skied it. I was like, right, this is good, not hugging you no more.
Yeah.
And then they went on. And then the Jorginho penalty, he's and I'm thinking, this is it, he's gonna win it here. And then I was like, oh, what's he gonna do? And then I remembered he does a hop skip, and I was like, he's gonna wait for the keeper to sit down. And he scored, but it was like slow motion. Keeper went down, then he's put it. It was so slow. And then it would just like, you just cheered and screamed for what felt like eternity. And it was, we've come back, and people have said, and we've listened to on Twitter, that it was one of the greatest games ever in knockout competition. But in the game, I don't think we realised how good it was, because you're so emotionally involved.
Yeah, we couldn't enjoy it so much because there was so much riding on it for everybody around us. every moment was critical, and you just maybe overanalyzing it. And I don't know if you remember when Jorginho was walking up to the penalty, and I said to you, there's no one in world football that you'd rather have stepping up to take that penalty, because he is so cool. And in my mind, because I'm slightly detached from you and the rest of the guys there, I had no doubt that he was going to score. And I know it's easy to say, but I just had no doubt he was going to score. And when he did what he did, you're right, it was like slow motion. I can pinpoint when it was almost like an eternity from when he took that last step to when he struck the ball. The keeper had already sat down, and he was just like, okay, then I'll just put it in that bottom corner. It was just such an amazing penalty.
Watching it live as well, it felt like he put no power on the ball. There was like nothing. And you watch it on TV, and it felt like it went quicker. Like when I was watching it there, it's almost like he's underhit this. It's almost like, is it going to reach the goal line? You know what I mean? And he's obviously does it every time, and he's brilliant. Just moving on, I think it's right for our listeners and all the people that have been asking me, why are you supporting Italy? Why aren't you supporting England? You know, why you got no reason to support Italy? So we have mentioned this before in a previous podcast, and it was in the Euros preview when we said, you know, which way my allegiances are. So just got to rewind 27 years. So 1994 was when I first got involved in football and started enjoying it. And I started, you know, and Italy were in the World Cup in America. And I started watching. I had no particular allegiance to any team. England won in it. And Italy obviously got to the final. And as the games progressed and they got on, I seemed to grow closer and closer to Italy. And till this day, the only game I've ever cried in was the World Cup final when Italy lost. And it started when Baresi skied the first penalty, and then it finished when Baggio obviously missed his as well. So 11-year-old kid, I'm crying my eyes out here. And my dad sat there and he's thinking, what the fuck are you crying for? You've got no links to Italy. Your dad's from Pakistan. You live in England. They're one of the two teams you should be, you know, crying about. What are you crying about? And from there, it just sort of grew as the years went on. So, I mean, there's plenty of heartache. You know, 96 got knocked out on penalty, missed a penalty against Germany that would have taken us through. 98 lost to France on penalties. 2000 golden goal in the final to France. You know, I mean, 2002, the South Korea game where, you know, the referee lines were dodgy as anything. Then 2006 was when it sort of turned and Grosso scored the winning penalty, and then we won the World Cup. Well, then since then, it's not been great. 2010, we didn't get past the New Zealand. When New Zealand were in our group, so we didn't get qualified past the group stages. You know, 2018, we've not even qualified for the thing. So there's been a lot of heartache within that. But it's just been years of emotional heartache, and it all started 27 years ago. But it's hard. I always say, and it's a debate I can have with anyone. I mean, there's always two sides to a debate, and I can have it forever. And my argument is, to support a team or a club or a national team, you don't have to be from that area, or the country. It's the emotional connection, how you are attached to that club. Sorry, go on.
That's what I was just about to say there. Look, like, I can understand why people ask the question, but it to me, it's easy to answer that when you think of how many people in the world support Liverpool, how many people support Manchester United. It's, you know, it might be a team that you watched in red when you were younger, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, you associated red, and eventually that team, it could have went either way. It could have went Man United, it could have went Liverpool, and then you start to follow a player specifically. You know, there's any number of things, you know, what the club stands for.
Do you know, just, I mean, there's obviously people that haven't known me all my life, which is obviously all right. But there are people that have known me for the last sort of, you know, say 20, 25 years. And I got a lot of texts once I put it on social media that I got tickets. They knew how much I loved it. And I got a lot of texts from my mates, all English fans, saying, really hope you enjoy it. And I know how much it means to you. Do you know what I mean? And like, I'd message afterwards and I'd put the national anthem up, you know, just as a bit of a joke to say, so glad you enjoyed it. And I know I was thinking of you watching that game, stuff like that. So it does, because these people know it's not suddenly I've just gone, oh yeah, I'll support Italy this tournament just because I backed them or whatever. It's got nothing to do with that. It's the fact that it's that connection, and it's hard to explain. I mean, if people, you can go with you're in England, why are you supporting England? I get that. There's not a hatred towards England whatsoever. Now, if England win the final, obviously there's all chance they can. I'll be happy, I'll be disappointed, but I'll be equally happy for England as well. Like I said, it's the worst final. I mean, you could say the best, but I'd say the worst, because it missed loyalties are. Obviously, I want Italy to win. But England winning would, it's not going to be the end of the world. It obviously means a lot. I do think the way the English media, and I'll put the media, not that I respect Southgate as a leader, I think the media and the fans make it harder for them through the rest of Europe, because the rest of Europe see England as arrogant because of the media and the fans, not Southgate, not the players. And that's the only thing that really grates on people. And I completely get that as well. Because they take the pictures like, oh yeah, we'll beat them, as Chiellini and Bonucci at 35, the shit. They'll slow Sterling. It's like the stuff they say is just so simplistic and stupid. And just the whole bigger picture of it all, it's just a lot of arrogance. And we obviously had Andy on the preview show, the Welsh fan, and he said it. I completely get. He said, there's the English arrogance which people don't like, and they just seem to think, they seem to just forget about, if it's not in the Premier League or it's Serie A, it's not as good. Do you know what I mean? And all that sort of stuff. It's very much led by the narrative that's been set from the media and fans that don't have much else to say. But it's the impression that goes across the rest of Europe and the world. So when they get beat, people don't really care. They're just saying it's the arrogant English, which to an extent they're right, because they've only won one tournament, and that was like 55 years ago. You know what I mean? So there's a level of humility that I think the fans and the media need to take a big sip of.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of getting carried away, and I think you can forgive us for that, because in reality, like you said, we never really get to a semi-final. Most of the time it's quarterfinals or the first round, and getting to a major final, I think you can kind of understand, you can kind of forgive people, the fans in particular, going over the top. But you're right, in the media. I remember the Daily Mail prior to the England Denmark game, where they said England versus Italy, and then like an exclamation mark,
asterisk,
unless it's an asterisk. Yeah, so the media do take it too far, and this is for anyone that's a non-Liverpool, let's say non-Liverpool or Man United fan supporting England. This is what it's like to support Liverpool and Man United, because you are hated. Your club is constantly hated all year round. So, it's no different for me supporting England, because a couple of my mates are Scottish, and they're just like, I've just been cheering for every team that England's been playing. I really hope you don't do it. But I've been very pragmatic all the way through, and now I just can't help but get carried away. Because it is not the best 11 that we've ever had, but it's the best squad we've ever, in my lifetime, we've ever had. If you think of how many other clubs maybe in world football can bring on the quality of Jadon Sancho, Jack Grealish, there's a couple of others I can't think of right now, but in an average age of a squad of 24-year-old, it's so exciting to be an England fan. Like, even if we don't win this tournament, you're thinking, the next one's only 18 months away, and the experience that they get from this is absolutely huge. So for me, I'm absolutely buzzing. I'm a little bit devastated that we're up against Italy. I do think Spain would have gave us the bigger runaround. Obviously, you've seen that they dominated the ball for long periods against the Italians, but they just didn't have that clinical edge, and that's what I fear from Italy. I think it will be tightly contested. I do think that Italy will have more of the ball, but I do think Italy will finish their chances, and it's just whether we can also do the same.
So what we decided to do today was, obviously it's a preview show, so we said we'll give a bit of background, speak about the game, why I support it. So the way we're going to do this is we've both got two questions for each other. Obviously, me going to an English fan, not going to say Englishman because I'm an Englishman as well, English fan, and then you've got obviously two questions for me as an Italian fan. Okay, so I'm going to start my first question to you, and that's, there's obviously been a lot around the media, around Europe, I'd say, that England have only got this far in the last one because of the run and the teams they've played against. They've had an unbelievably easy draw. Mm-hmm. Do you think England would have been as successful with the same manager and the same style had he played proper teams in the knockout stages?
No. Simple answer, no. I do think obviously the draw has favoured us, but that's not a stick that I think people can beat us with. In reality, you only beat what's in front of you. That's starting to sound like Robbie Savage. Just all the cliches going. You can only play what's in front of you. We did play, for me, the best. Germany played the best single performance in the game in the tournament against Germany.
Portugal being
Portugal. And I thought that Germany was going to show up against us at Wembley, and they didn't. We kind of matched them up. It was very even. They missed chances, we missed chances. Obviously, you think of the Muller chance that goes in, how things change. And so I think that they were a decent team. Denmark, you personally had reservations on whether we would get through that, and it's almost like kind of defeated our like psychological demons more than actual quality teams. It's kind of like psychological barriers breaking down, and that's something that I take from the tournament. Now, Southgate, as far as Southgate's concerned, my opinions, and anyone who's watched my opinions on Southgate, and slowly but surely, my opinions have not altogether changed, but they've altered. I'd say they've altered. I perceived him as a very much a yes man, someone who, afraid to make the difficult decisions, when in reality, he's made quite a few difficult decisions this tournament, namely Jack Grealish. Constantly, everybody's saying Jack Grealish has got to start. He doesn't start him. England do well. He comes on, he gets an assist. Okay, he's got to start the next game. No, he doesn't start in the next game. And I like that about him, he's not afraid to make that decision. Again, it seems to all to be going back to Jack Grealish. The other night when Jack Grealish got brought on and then he got brought off, I thought that was like, I did think Sterling should have been brought off, just, maybe not to damage the confidence of the, the lad. But that's a ruthless decision, and that's the type of decision that a Mourinho would make. And I never thought that Gareth Southgate would have that in him. So is he tactically brilliant? In my opinion, no, because I don't feel like he's ultimately been tested. He's never had to rejig the formation. He's never, had that ultimate test. And it may come in the final, and he may, out-coach Mancini. I can't see it, but I just think, he needs to be given a lot of credit at the way that he's managed everything. Because, like, management, yourself, management's not always about best tactical. The best tactics, you think of Mourinho, for example, not Mourinho, Guardiola. Then you've got Klopp, who's more of a motivator. What Gareth Southgate's been great at is obviously bringing the group together and just managing the situation. Very much a manager, not a tactician. What about yourself?
I think, is this part of your two questions for me, by the way?
No, this is just preface. Preface. Now a draw.
I think.
Sorry. Also, you never remember who you beat along the way. Now, if you think back to maybe when you wanted to, you do very well to think of your groups. Maybe because we went through it recently, but you do well to think about who you beat along the way. Yeah. History will tell us in 5 years we won it if we win it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's got to be a hint of realism to it all, because regardless if they beat Sweden in the knockout stages and they've had, whoever they've Ukraine, the weakest team in the tournament, and then, a poor Germany side and Denmark. I mean, if you give them, and compare that to Italy, who have had Spain and Belgium, two of the top nations in the world, and they've gone through them. I think it's a fair question, but the fact they've got to a semi-final and now a final in two major tournaments consecutively, I think mentally it helps a lot for this new group of players, because they're not tarnished and tarred with that failure brush, from yesteryear, when, like you said, teams that were better, that, on paper were better, were not doing the job. And I think what he's done is good. He's picking the best team, not the best players. I think we both went with the starting 11 of Grealish, Kane and Foden as his front through, and it's like Kane and Sterling. And I think them two probably played a game complete between them. Do you know what I mean? So he's obviously brave in the decisions he's made. But again, I still think he's not been tested. He's not played a proper team. You know what I mean? I think the Nations League final, Nations game, you know, when they played, I think Holland, and they got beat, and that's what I felt England were like. And I still think, even against Scotland, I don't think they were great. That was, you know, I'm just picking moments and games here. I mean, Scotland's not a great example, but they've not played enough of the big nations to, in like games that matter. I think it's a really tough test. Obviously, I want Italy to win. I mean, England can win as well. You know, I think the thing is, if England beat Italy, it will certainly knock all those question marks against Southgate out the window. Do you know what I mean? Then there's no more questions. Yeah, there's no more games, and he's beat the big teams. He's won it. He's held his nerve. He's made the right decisions all the way through. Do you know what I mean? He will be, you know, the next. You know, that was it. Alf Ramsey was the one who won it. He'll be, you know, Southgate. It's just ridiculous. So he's one game away from that. The players are one game away from legendary status. But it's the same for Italy as well. Do you know what I mean? And both, and the bigger picture is obviously the stuff around pandemic. England and Italy are two countries that have been hit the worst. So this is a bit of a, if ever a country can lift, I mean, we've seen how much it's lifted the country, even though, I mean, obviously I want England to do well, but, you know, with my Italian hat on, I can just see how much it's lifted the country, that, you know, that feel-good spirit across everyone. I mean, my wife doesn't like football, but she's like, I'm going to be supporting England. My kids are going to be supporting England. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to explain, I can't explain to my kids, my wife, why, you know, why Daddy, why do you support Italy? And I try, you know, they're young, they don't understand, so it's fine. I'm not going to force supporting Italy on them. You know, they're English. They want to support England, and that's absolutely fine. You know, I'm not going to, whether if they were not going to support Liverpool or Man United, you know, they could go find themselves another house, but that's a separate issue. But yeah, no, I think if he beats Italy, that will certainly take that massive question mark away from him and England.
Yeah. So my question to you is, how do England beat Italy? Like I was gonna give you an analysis of like how would Italy win, but in reality that was too easy for you.
No, yeah, that was my question. That was gonna be my question to you, but it's a good. I like that. So how are England going to beat Italy? They've got to be defensively better than. I know they've only conceded 1 goal, but they gave Denmark a few too many opportunities, and on the turnover, the Phillips, you know. Well, we've spoke about it. You obviously watched the game together. I think the midfield combination of Rice and Phillips, I think it's just gonna. You can't play it. I don't think you can win it with playing them both, because I think the variety, Jorginho, Barella just dominate that too easily. Obviously, Spinazzola not playing is a huge loss. I think they could, and I don't know if you would. I think it's they win it by picking the right combination in the front three. Obviously, Sterling plays, and I actually think he plays Grealish ahead of Saka. I think that gives it more oomph. So but play Sterling from the right. I mean, obviously Emerson's playing at left back, and he did all right against Spain, but he's not really been tested. I think you need people to actually run at him and see it. And I think with Kane, who's obviously up against Chiellini and Bonucci, I'd normally tell him, you know, we've obviously said stay high. I'd tell him to drop deep. You know, play deeper, because as we saw against Morata's chance when he scored, he dropped really deep and they didn't go with him. Even with the first half when Dani Olmo was playing as a false 9, he kept dropping deep, and, you know, they created that overload in midfield. So the deeper he drops, Chiellini and Bonucci don't always go in. So, you know, they create that space. But then the flip side of that is if Chiellini and Bonucci don't come and Kane drops, there's no space for Sterling and whoever it's Saka, Grealish, whoever he plays on the other side, to drive into that space. I think it's going to be a really, really tight and tough game. But yeah, for England to win, they've got to take the chances. And I know I'm stating the obvious here, but pick the right combination in the front three. And I have a feeling Henderson might start as well. I think that would be a really big plus. I wouldn't, as an Italy fan, I'd rather be up against Rice and Phillips, because they're very much sort of static defensive midfield. Phillips is a bit better, but Rice is like really poor, and he'll get exposure. Well, we said on the game he kept hiding. He can't hide. Players cannot hide in the final there. Literally everyone. And again, I think Pickford's got to be braver when he's got the ball at his feet as well. He just gets the ball and he smashes it. You've got to. That's not being technical. He just absolutely takes smash the leather off it, and he whacks it high and hard. But it's not the game. You've got to. There's gaps, and these players have never played the biggest game they'll ever play in their lives. and it's about being brave in those moments. Because if you keep giving the ball away, you're going to lose the game. So you've got to keep the ball. Pickford, when he gets the ball and he's got to punch it through to your midfield. Your midfielders have got to show. If your centre half's that, there's got to show. Got to look to turn. You can't keep, because Italy are going to press high. And when I say be brave, you've got to play through the press. Because what Italy want to do is go along and then you're back without the ball. So it's really important to be brave in possession, the bravest you're ever going to be. Because ultimately you'll be watching it's a 60,000, all English fans pretty much. Atmosphere's going to be ridiculous. You don't want to make a mistake in the final, regardless of what Southgate and the psychologists and everyone are going to be telling the England players. It's just another game. Players know it's not another game. It's a final. Yeah. You know about this. In 5-10 years' time, when they're looking back, say, yeah, we knew, regardless of all the work we did, we knew how big the magnitude of the game is. So the two things I'd say, without going into too much tactical detail, is be really brave to play through the press and to take your chances when you get them and if you get them.
Yeah, like bravery for me is the key word that I take from that. Like that's the one thing that I would say. But also bravery without the ball. Like I personally think that England should. I know they're not on the level of the Spanish press or anything like that, but for me, they've got to be very high. They've got to allow the Italians no time to turn on the ball. It sounds so simplistic because these are technically brilliant players, but a lot of the time it's going to be like man for man. We watched, obviously we were right behind the Italian goalkeeper, Donnarumma, and Spain pressed so high and they just went man for man. And obviously Donnarumma had the ball at his feet and he's looking for options. And in reality, he had no options. And there was a number of times where he tried to look for Immobile straight through the middle, and with the intention of Immobile just popping the ball off either way and then them building from there. But Immobile just wasn't that striker. And I just feel like England could benefit from that if Immobile was to start. Now, if it's Berardi, then it's totally different. That's someone that's going to come short. He's going to show for it. He's going to hold people off well, and he's going to bring people into the game. Again, with Insigne, very much similar. He's done it a couple of times. He's done it a lot better than Immobile. So, in other words, I want Immobile to start. I've discussed with you that you don't want Immobile to start the game and all, do you?
No, I don't know. I mean, we've obviously I said at the start of the game, Immobile, he's a striker that needs a partner with him. Do you know what I mean? The ball goes up to him, it doesn't stick. He's very much a sort of penalty box striker. The chances come, he'll score. He's a cracking finisher. Belotti's more of an all-round, sort of old-school number 9. We saw him, ball went up a couple of times, bang, bullied Laporte, got it down, switched it. Do you know what I mean? Just it's got a chance of sticking. He was coming short. He was being brave. Yeah. He wasn't hiding. Right, okay, my second question. As an English fan, which player do you fear from Italy? Who do you think has caused the most damage?
I would go with, it's one of two, to be honest. I'm going to say Insigne, just because of how direct he can be, just how nippy he is, how intelligent he is with his movement. But for me, it's got to be Chiesa. He just reminds me of like an old school, I don't want to say Totti, just a very intelligent, maybe like a Del Piero type. He's just very, so intelligent. He picks up the ball in the pocket. He can just find a goal from anywhere. He's just so different. And I don't think he started the tournament, did he? Did he not start the tournament?
No, Berardi started
the tournament. Yeah, and he's the player that I fear the most. He's just technically exceptional. And how old is he? Maybe
he's really young. I mean, the thing with Chiesa is, and why he's so unique is a player what I'd call is a dying breed. In football now, wingers are always inverted. They'll get the ball. If they're one-on-one, they think that's close space, they'll recycle. They'll go back to the holding midfield, recycle out the other side, and then same again. Unless they've got an overlap, they won't pass the ball. Chiesa, if he gets the ball, he's attacking you. He's the most direct footballer in world football at the moment. I can't think of another player who gets the ball. I'd say Sterling, but Chiesa, I'd say technically better because he can actually score more goals, and he's been brilliant at Juve. I don't know if you watched the Porto game, Juve Porto Champions League. They got knocked out, but Chiesa was It's probably one of the best performances I've seen. He was phenomenal, and he's just such a threat. You know, I mean, does not care about reputations. I mean, I remember his dad Enrico when he used to play for Sampdoria as a centre forward, and he was some striker. You know what I mean? But Chiesa is like so much better. You know, he's taken up, and he's now like his first name around there. We can guess the front three. It'll be we can guess 2 of the 3. It'll be Chiesa and Insigne, and then it's like Immobile. Probably is always at Belotti. Well, yeah, no, Chiesa, I would absolutely agree with you. I think obviously Jorginho, Verratti midfield, Barella, I think that's a strong midfield. If they dominate the ball, then you can try and get Chiesa. I mean, if Chiesa's on, I mean, the thing is, Chiesa can be up against Kyle Walker or Luke Shaw. I mean, Luke Shaw will beat Kyle Walker. He won't care about the paces. It's those sharp turns in and out, and then once he gets half a yard, he can smack the ball as well. We obviously saw the goal, but he scored early on in the tournament as well. So he's and against Austria. Do you know what I mean? So he's that's who I would have as well. So yeah, I imagine England are going to do their homework and try and nullify that threat.
Well, I did have another question, but I'm just going to fire that one back at you. The player that you fear the most, obviously Sterling's had an amazing tournament. He's just so, like you're saying there, direct. Obviously, we've got Harry Kane who likes to pull the strings very much deeper. And then maybe someone that isn't necessarily in the starting lineup, maybe like a Grealish or someone that comes on that potentially change the game later. Yeah,
for me, it's Grealish or Foden. I've been disappointed with Foden, I've got to say. I thought he'd do more. In the first game, he sort of hit the post, and he's not really done a lot. And he was supposed to come on and take the whole thing by the scruff of the neck and be one of the players of the tournament. Grealish has been slightly lucky that he's not. I don't know Southgate. I still think Grealish. There's space. There's room for him there. Play Sterling on the right, Grealish from the left. I'd say Sterling's the one. From England's players, just because he's got that ability. Again, it's like similar, players that run at players and make defenders defend and make decisions and get into the penalty box, and that's when he gets dangerous. They're always a threat. So yeah, I'd say Sterling from the one that's starting, and if not from the bench, it's just going to be Grealish or Foden because they've got a lot of attacking threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other question that I was going to ask you was which channel will you be actually watching it on? The BBC, they've got is it Jermaine Jenis and I think it's Tony Mowbray, I want to say, and ITV, they've got Sam Matterface and Lee Dixon. So
yeah, no, I'll be watching on BBC just because.
No breaks.
Yeah, no breaks. I absolutely despise it. Literally, there's a break before the kick-off. Every 2 seconds, bang, break. And it's like, fucking hell. Just give it a break. Literally give it a break because you don't need it. They've obviously got to make the money, and there's got to be a fine line. But for people to be talking about adverts that much is obviously. There's pundits on these. Rio Ferdinand's an absolute weapon. Some of the stuff that he comes up with. So I'm not going to worry too much with what he says. Do you know what I mean?
Slightly controversial topic, maybe to end it with. The booing of the national anthems. Now, I just wanted to, because obviously a couple of opinions from both Gary Neville and Gary Lineker. I think it was Gary Neville that mentioned the fact that, he never ever saw it as a personal attack. It was mainly just, to try and get inside your head. And then I think it was Gary Lineker that said, it's a bit of an offence towards the country, and it's very disrespectful to do that. Now, bear in mind, we booed the Spanish national anthem for around about 5 seconds. It was very minimal. To me, I just want to give you my opinion before I pass you over. To me, I don't see it as a personal attack. There's a lot of outrage towards this. When I'm booing, it is just a case of you don't mean anything by it. It's just a case of you're just trying to get inside people's heads. It's for me, like a lot of the people that are being offended by the national anthem are the same people who are booing the players kneeling, and it's all about national pride more than anything else. And there's just such a disparity between the hypocrisy, I want to say, between the two, the booing, so to speak. Just wanted your opinion on the national anthems.
I think we can imagine. I'd imagine the English fans will be booing the Italian national anthem. as is the way. But all that will do is we'll just get Chiellini and the boys
Inspire
just singing it. Yeah, it'll just get them to sing it with more passion and gusto. I know if I was in the stadium, I'd certainly be losing my shit and going even louder and harder. So it don't make a difference to the players. Players are very, they've got to be ice cold. These are, we're talking about players that have played in, European Championship finals before. Some of these players have played in the Italy Spain game, obviously when they got smashed, but still they played in the final. They understand that. They played in Champions League finals. They played in big games. You know what I mean? They've played away in games where majority of the big stadiums where they've had very small or minimal support. So I think it's important to understand that these players, it won't affect them. It's obviously slightly disrespectful. I think the bit about booing the knee, that's a separate subject. That's just blatant racism. There's nothing else to say about that. If you boo people taking the knee, you're just being racist. And if genuinely, the biggest impact and the biggest signal to all these fans, English fans that are there, if England take the knee, if they boo, every single black player for England should just get up and take the top off and not play. That would just say we will not play if you boo. One person boos, just go. That's it. And I think that it's never going to happen. But I'm just, I'm just making a point that if it wasn't for, I saw a stat that from the starting 11 against Denmark, if it wasn't for immigration, there'd only be 3 players for England. Do you know what I mean? I think it was Stones, Pickford, and I can't remember who the other one was.
Luke Shaw, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that. But it just shows where these fans are. They'll be booing Sterling, and then he scores a winner. They'll put, loading him as the greatest player England have ever had. Do you know what I mean? So there's the hypocrisy, and these fans, we're not going to talk and give them too much time. This is the preview show for the European Championship final, but you get the point.
Do you just one last thing? Do you think think there's any chance that Southgate's going to change it? I know you mentioned Henderson earlier. Obviously being a Liverpool fan, I would love Henderson to start, but I can't see that happening whatsoever. I think, that would be considered almost a Guardiola type moment, like where you go into a major fan and you probably overthink it. A lot. If England were to lose that, that would be pointed, there'd be a lot of hysteria around why you're changing the team selection, so to speak.
I think if we watched the game, when Henderson came on, the game changed for England. You got, Henderson was making runs ahead of the midfield, and he upped the tempo and intensity. We're Liverpool fans, we know how much of an influence he has on the team. When he's playing, the tempo of the game increases. He gets the ball, he fizzes it forward. We watched the game. Declan Rice played a forward pass after 3.5 minutes, and we thought, I looked at it, I was like, wow, what's this? This is never him. He's punched the ball, he broke the lines, and he's gone. I was like, wow, this is all right. The rest of the game, he was hiding, he didn't do it. He did one other good thing, which he tackled, he trapped back and he won a tackle in the second half. Everything else, he was hiding behind. If he was showing, he'd go backwards a square. The levels are just completely different. Henderson came on, changed the game, and I don't think it'd be that much of a surprise. I mean, if Henderson can play, it's absolute. I'd rather Rice played.
As an Italian fan.
I'd rather Rice played. And that's the only potential change I could see. I mean, obviously the other one is whether it's Saka, Sancho, Grealish, or Foden. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what do you tell? Lastly, what do you tell if you're England manager going out? Obviously, we've got majority of the viewers are English. What do you tell the England players? The last thing that you say to them as you go out?
You can become legends.
Yeah.
That's it. That's simple as that. You go out there, you know what I mean. Do trust what you've been doing all this time, but stay ice cold, and you can become legends. That's simply it. And that you can't even. That's not even sort of overstating the fact how big the game is, and it's the same for Italy as well. Do you know what I mean? I think the other thing Italy you could say is you're doing this for your country. After the last year and a half they've had, this is giving people. I've heard stories and people and phone-ins saying they've lost their parents in the last year. The big England fans, they would have been looking down now on this, and they'd have loved to have them. But winning it will just bring a little bit of joy. Do you know what I mean? And you know, we say football's not important, but it's the most important thing, or the least important things. And it's stuff like this, and it's games like this, and it's moments like this that you think, yeah, absolutely right. Nothing. I mean, people don't know. You've got a nation back in England, but they don't know the game. They just support England. They support the country, and that's fine. You know what I mean? So let's not get it right. Obviously, I want Italy to win. I love Italy. But if England win, do you know what I mean? It's there's no hatred towards England. I still love England as well, but it's just a tough and a horrible situation for me. But Forza Azzurri!
I'm going to finish on one last question. It's the question that you absolutely hate, but I'm going to do it anyway. Who's going to win, and what's the score going to be?
I'm going 2-0 Italy.
2-0 Italy. Oh, you give me a score this time. Normally, it's just a Italy win. Yeah. I'm going to go 1-0 and an England penalty shootout win.
We might not have a podcast after Monday.
Oh my God! Can you imagine if this goes to a penalty shootout? I understand that you guys would be favourites.
I don't know.
I don't think I could handle it.
Right, as it's preview show and question of the day, so it's really simple. Okay, is it going to Rome or is it coming home? Answers below. Let us know. And if you disagree, tell us why. Anything we've said.
Aye. Yeah, so as always, like, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. And we always say, if you've been this long, we always say it's going to be, 10, 15 minutes? We're looking at around about 40 minutes now. So if you're here right now, then just click a little subscribe, like all that good stuff, so we know what you do actually enjoy, and comment below. So I want to say good luck, but I don't really mean it. But I just hope you're happy at the end of the day, regardless.
Regardless of what happens, we'll still be friends. The love is real, okay?
We'll see.
Yeah. Right. All right, guys. See you in the next one.
All right. See you later, guys.